Welcome, councillors. I formally open the August meeting. Welcome to you all, staff and gallery, to the August meeting. As I said earlier, I'll begin proceedings with prayer and acknowledgement of country. Heavenly Father, once again we thank you for this opportunity to come together in our roles as elected members representing the community. We just pray your blessing on the meeting and give wisdom and guidance to our decisions. Also, Father, I also acknowledge the traditional owners of this country throughout the Barossa region and recognise their continuing connection to land and pay respect to their elders past, present and emerging. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Apologies. We do not have any apologies, so I'll move on to the 1.5, which is the minutes from the previous meeting for confirmation. Those minutes being council meeting held on Tuesday the 19th of July at 2022 and a special council meeting held on Tuesday the 19th of July. Would someone please move those minutes be accepted? Moved Councillor Barrett and seconded Councillor De Vries. All those in favour? Carried. Members, with the leave of the meeting, Councillor Angus has a personal statement he would like to make. So can I have a show of hands for those who are happy for this personal statement to be made with the leave of the meeting? Councillor Angus, you have the leave of the meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, the personal statement revolves around a statement I made a month ago, and it is this. At the meeting of this council held on the 19th of July, I made a statement refuting the commencement time of our workshop in June. It appears that I was mistaken and I withdraw the statement. I apologise for any confusion this may have caused.
Thank you, Councillor. I too was overlooked the fact that we did start an earlier meeting also, so thank you for that as well. Consensus agenda. Excuse me, I jumped over one page. The Mayor's report on page 5. Is there any questions that anyone has with the Mayor's report? I might just say that the Rotary people came along and presented us with a plaque in recognition for the contribution that the council provided with the national conference here held in the Barossa back in April. So it was well attended. The show hall was absolutely full, and I guess that's really what it was all about, with providing those facilities and upgrading the kitchen to capture those sorts of activities. Councillor Havey.
Yeah, 28.7.
Can't hear you, councillor.
25.7D. Any further knowledge or news on Concordia development? The meeting had with Nick Champion.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. Yeah, it was just more or less a briefing that the CEO and myself had with respect to the Concordia proposal, just to highlight where we had progressed to. And of course, Nick Champion's now the new planning minister, so we thought we would want to put our perspective on where we were as a council, how far we'd progressed, and just draw his attention to council support for that to proceed, and probably also highlight that the Concordia project is wholly and solely within the Barossa Council.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Move that the report be received.
Moved Councillor De Vries, seconded Councillor Johnson. All those in favour?
I also note there's a C and an E there that probably need to be tweaked.
Okay, thank you. All those in favour? Carried. Members, the consensus agenda, is there any questions that you need clarified within the consensus agenda? Councillor Barrett?
I've got one question, and I apologise for not asking beforehand, and it's to do with item 4.7.2, Father's Farm. I said they're going to introduce a fee. Has anyone got any idea what the fee is going to be for collecting electronic waste? What prompts that is I can take a TV down to Bunnings at Mile End and drop it off for nothing, and I see we're going to be charged at this end. I'd just like to, if we any idea, or is it unknown at this stage?
Through the mayor, no, we have not set a set fee. They will simply look at who's bringing it in and what they are bringing in, and they will try to work out an appropriate fee to charge. The main reason, and as I think I might have alluded to when this was first raised, they've had situations where a certain company has dumped a whole lot of photocopiers,
Yes.
which obviously they need to dispose of. So they just want to be able to recoup some of that cost given the quantum that was disposed of. So they will judge accordingly. So there's not going to be one fee that will be charged for everyone. They're just going to, I think, take a little bit of flexibility.
Thank you very much. That's all I need to know.
Any further questions? Councillor Wee-Smith?
Yeah, just turning to item 441, here's my answer. I just wonder if we should be withdrawing this until we've had the presentation from Barossa Australia, as there may be some questions to come out of this report that may be answered by Barossa Australia, sorry.
Okay, you happy, we'll just move on with that?
Yeah, so does that need to be withdrawn?
No, unless you're gonna make a direction, if you've asked the question, we'll
I just thought as a matter of process it might be good to do that.
do you want to withdraw?
I'll withdraw it, yep.
I'll deal with questions and then I'll ask for those who want to withdraw. Any other questions? Okay. You wish to withdraw that item
Just withdraw that until after the deputation, please,
and with a direction in mind?
in terms of,
Well, we did talk about anything that we withdraw
Yep.
in the consensus ejection is based on the fact that
I
there
had a
will be
few,
a direction.
I had a few questions on this report which I think may be answered by the deputation. So just in terms of process,
Okay, well, I don't think it needs to be withdrawn.
Okay.
We'll leave it at that. So with that, someone move the consensus agenda. Moved councillor De Vries, seconded councillor Johnston. All those in favour? Carried. We do have a delegation and I'm pleased to welcome Mr James March and Mr Ben Patton. So welcome to the both of you. We look forward to your presentation and I think if we can move you, is it a tag team presentation or?
We were going to present jointly, Mayor, if that's okay.
Yes, no, that's all right. We'll find an extra chair and if you can position yourself.
Ready to go?
Yep.
And we just got a presentation, if we can share that with Janine.
good memory.
A month ago, I was getting COVID.
I bought my mask for a reason.
I'm safe for another 2 weeks.
You are, but I'm not.
You can't have me.
I think that's a good point, actually.
I'm immune. I can't give you,
You just keep it to yourself.
I can't give it to you.
Thank you. Thank you for this.
Literally barely for another 2 weeks.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
So, thank you, James and Ben. Now, Ben, what is your title?
Head of Destination and Visitor Engagement.
So congratulations,
Thank
that
you.
is a really impressive title.
I know, right? Yeah,
Destination is what it's all about and Barossa is to the forefront.
and visitor engagement, no doubt, so.
Look forward to catching up with you and chatting
you,
some
you too.
more. So over to you then, James.
Well, thank you everyone for the opportunity to come and share some information with you regarding, I guess, the future forward activities that Barossa Australia is looking to engage in, particularly related to destination marketing and destination management. What I wanted to share in terms of, Ben will deliver I guess the bulk of the presentation in terms of some of those activities and some of the detail around those specifics, but I just wanted to open by reiterating and thanking the Barossa Council for their support of Barossa Australia and noting in particular the very close working relationship that we have with the council, which has been very well appreciated. I think the collaborative approach that we've taken in terms of looking through the market diversification activities, the support through whether it was responses to the COVID impacts or the China tariff imposition. This has all been done with a spirit of goodwill and I think a really effective outcome in terms of sort of the activities that we've been able to do. The level of connection and integration and support that we have with council staff, I think is also something that I'd really like to highlight and draw attention to, particularly the relationship with the Visitor Centre. I think the work that the Visitor Centre, the Jo and her team lead is exceptional and outstanding, and I think that our ability to work closely with that in promoting the visitor economy and as a point of contact, and particularly the support we have around working with Barossa.com is something that we can all be very proud of in terms of that outcome. Just a couple of the key highlights that I think in terms of from a very top level work that we're doing with the Barossa Council at the moment. I think we had the opportunity to invite you to the Barossa Cellar recently and share where that space was in terms of an opportunity to really activate that as a beacon for visitors and to be able to deliver that exceptional experience in terms of hospitality and gastronomy and sort of wine tasting. We've got an opportunity coming up on this Thursday where we're hosting a representative from the Grapevine Visitors and Convention Bureau, and that is really to showcase that opportunity to partner together, particularly in a market as important as North America, and particularly the focus that we're having on Texas as a state of opportunity to be able to cement an enduring relationship with the city of Grapevine. I think represents and serves the interests of this region very well.
What time is that happening, Joe?
The opportunity to come, I think from lunchtime, Dave, if that would be great.
Until when?
Till mid-afternoon. I'll send an itinerary.
12:30 till 3.
12:30 till 3, so I'll send the details through to you. And then I think the opportunity really in terms of finally, I just wanted to capture another really important issue, and that is around the work that we're doing with the long-term water security strategy with this region, and particularly areas of focus, not sustainability, and when I mean sustainability in the broader sense, environmentally is obviously a very key focus for us, but that broader aspects of social and governance within that is really aligned to, I think, the council's initiatives around the corporate and the community plan, as well as the economic plan. So I'm very pleased to share that we're working very closely with the Barossa Council around identifying opportunities, not only in water security strategy, but that very focus on the broader sustainability initiative and looking to support the whole region in its endeavour to become and be recognised for all the initiatives that we are doing in that space. So there's more work to come on that, but I think there's a very positive momentum around the work that we're doing already in that. So I just wanted to allude to that. Thank you.
Thank you. So over to me if I can. I've been doing this for a little while. I still find local government chambers a little intimidating, so be kind if you can. So thank you kindly for the introduction. Mayor, my name's Ben Patton. By way of update, I'll cover destination marketing, so you know what's been happening recently and what are we doing looking forward. My colleague Amanda has provided me with that briefing, so I'll present that as we go. Events, very topical. We had a question around Barossa Vintage Festival while we were standing in the lobby, so I'll discuss that briefly as well if I can. And then destination management, and primarily that'll be about the merger and how tourism is currently operating and will hopefully operate into the future as part of the Barossa Australia team. I won't call out all of these things. We were scoped, I think, 10 to 15 minutes, and I think James has just used a few, so I'll do my best. But as you say, I mean, the real top line, events, brand, media, research, which is something that I'll touch on as very topical at the moment, and also the overall brand. So topical at the moment and underway, a little more Barossa. So, you know, an open source or an umbrella marketing activation on behalf of the whole region. 52 events enrolled initially, which was great. Significant content and creation that's gone on. The goal being to drive traffic to barossa.com in things that we're amazing at: food, wine, events and experiences. Each event has an individual listing. What I'm discovering as we go, and you know, working closely with Jo and her team, who of course integrate with us and us with them on events like this, is, you know, there's some learnings about events post-COVID. I don't think we can simply do things as we've always done them. There hasn't been shyness in providing feedback, which is great, both positive and constructive. It's worth noting also that A Little More Barossa is a 2-year funding agreement with the South Australian Tourism Commission's Regional Events Fund, so it will run again next year. But I'm really excited about what we can put together for that. From the top line, you know, in terms of those really key marketing metrics, you know, excellent click-through rate on Google, very challenging to drag people off Google and into where you want them. The events page itself's had over 10,000 visits, which is our number one page at the moment. That's important to show that you can bring new people and help them find pages away from the typical stay or tour or those usual ones. So that's a really important metric. Social media reach, as you can see, and other key media channels. So there's been placements in Glam Adelaide, EDM's City Mag, Inside Scoop, SA Top Picks, The Leader, Broadsheet, which was good. That touched some interstate markets as well. The one I'm particularly focused on is the member capability workshop. So all participating businesses were offered a one-on-one opportunity to have a tutorial or a short workshop on how to maximise assets and things for their own business. This is really unique. Not many regional tourism organisations have the capability to do this. So it's important to note that, yes, all of these top line metrics are important, but in terms of helping businesses grow their own capability, this is the sort of thing that's going on the ground as well. Barossa, It's Just Us. Hopefully some of you are familiar with this campaign. It launched in May, but will continue through into October, which is why I raise it. It is a fully integrated campaign: stills, videos, playlists, podcasts. I've heard some of the podcasts, they were great. They were a good way for me to learn a little bit about the Barossa in the car as I was trawling about, you know, some very interesting yabby stories and some other things that go on there, and recipes for biscuits and whatnot. Ultimately though, people's stories are what grab the consumer as part of a multi-level approach. So by developing content, you know, like this, it's very snappy. It does grab the consumer from the environment that they're in, which are their own social media channels or Google or other places, and say, hey, I need to look at this. And that's how we bring them off their channels into ours. A nice way to show how tourism is integrating is we've got stage 2 scoped for this. So stage 1 was primarily growers and winemakers. We've just put together the list after solicitation for tourism businesses. So we've got 19 tourism businesses that will partake in this program in the next couple of weeks. The photo shoots at the end of August at the Barossa Cellar. So, I mean, that was a program that had come over from Grape and Wine and has been very driven from that side. Now, post-merger, we're bringing tourism people forward in this framework so they can start and tell their stories as well. So an interesting way to see how that integrates. The destination marketing plan. So one of the things I was really excited about arriving was the fact that there was already collaboratively funded third-party consumer research in train. So I'm not sure if some of you have heard about that. It's run by a steering committee. But ultimately what it does is it sought three key markets, SA, Vic and New South Wales post-COVID, and started to seek to understand how the Barossa is received by consumers. And that's very important in developing a destination marketing plan. Inside out thinking is important, but outside in is equally important. So that research has been delivered, the steering committee has seen it. We're working out how to share it with members. It's 96 slides of content and pages, so we're working out how to kind of condense that down to something that's manageable. The next step to that is to engage a creative agency, which is actually happening this afternoon. Amanda is in Adelaide this afternoon briefing an agency to provide a campaign that's responsive to that. This isn't 6 months in advance. We want to be in market in the latter part of this year, which I think again is really important. There's a lot of aggressive marketing going on out there at the moment for all sorts of areas to try and capture that tourism dollar as we emerge from COVID. So critical for us. Barossa Vintage Festival. April's a long way away, but not a long way away. So, you know, we are moving forward on that, and we're pleased to announce that Release Creative, who some of you would be familiar with, have been appointed as the festival directors to help Barossa Australia and community and stakeholders deliver a wonderful 75th anniversary event, hopefully in 2023. We've started to do some meetings with conveners and committees and stakeholders. I had the pleasure of a wonderful game of Kegel the other day with the new young ambassadors. Never done it before. I didn't set any records, I don't think. Jeff at the Alley told me, he just sort of let me know I wasn't that good. But it was a wonderful night. We've got a really good young ambassador group for this year that we're looking forward to working with, and we're very engaged with them. Branding for the festival is being refreshed. Brady and Co are doing that, a local design company. So, you know, momentum is gathering. There is a Vintage Festival information night for previous event producers, conveners and others next Thursday. So happy to share that, but response has been good. And, you know, we're launching towards the official program launch and festival launch in December. Creating assets, to helping members create assets is really important. I'll keep this moving along a bit. I don't want to take too much of your time, but, you know, over the last 3 to 4 months, 40 businesses in the Barossa have had fully funded new video and image creative developed for them, whether it was via an initiative from Tourism Australia or cooperative marketing funds from SATC. The digital world, it's critical, as we know, relaunching from COVID, as I said, having the right assets to really move that forward, I think is important. Sneak peek of the 2022 visitor guide. So that has been developed again in consultation with HWR Media. You'll note the new look and feel. We're just running down some stock of the previous guide, and this is scheduled for launch in September in time for the spring school holidays once we responsibly use some of the stock that we have. Editorial's been completely overhauled. As you can see, I think it looks quite different. All of the South Australian regions visitor guides are going to this white cover as opposed to that kind of coloured version previously. If anyone wants a sneak peek, I'm happy to take discussions on that, no problem. Over to destination management. I've been in place about 9 weeks now. I'm going to round that to a couple of months. You stop counting the weeks at some point, so I'll say a couple of months. You know, there's 3 areas that I've been highlighting when I talk to people. Integration with Barossa Australia is still critically important, you know, from TBI over into the Barossa Australia framework. Systems, processes, people. Important to that, we have a new team member joining, so you'll start and hear from a new person. Her name's Ashley. She'll join on the 29th of August, replacing a couple of people that have departed. Again, that renewal is important, so really looking forward to that. Local government, operators and collaboration, destination management, you know, securing funding, membership renewals, getting out and about, meeting people, very, very important. And third, just to highlight, I think, the opportunity. You know, the new organisation, I believe, and talking to colleagues, is a really kind of nationally progressive way to do regional tourism, which is what I'm super passionate about. And I think the new organisation has enormous capability with wonderful support from stakeholders like yourselves. Obviously, coming into the room, I heard there might be some questions. I caveat that 8 or 9 weeks with doing our best between James and I. We've provided, I believe, the 2021-22 report and also the proposed new agreement for the coming year. James and I are more than happy to take questions, I think, aren't we, James? Yep, okay, lovely. We'll do our very best. Obviously, if there's anything that we can't answer off the cuff, more than happy to take that on notice and we can return the necessary information. How do we go for time? Is that okay now?
Well done, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Questions?
You've adopted the report now?
Any questions? Very good. Well, thank you both for coming along and welcome, Ben. I'm delighted to see the enthusiasm and passion. I always say the Barossa is a destination, not a location, so I love the words destination.
Thank you.
And I love the words opportunity, so look forward to working closely with you in your new role and also continuing that collaboration, James, with Barossa Australia. Look forward to Thursday and what that will hopefully bring for the Barossa in the future. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for the opportunity. See some of you on Thursday. Yep.
Yeah, I won't be able to get back to you after a week. Okay. Maybe I can hang around a bit afterwards.
So members, we'll move to
See you
the
lunchtime.
debate agenda, which is 7.2 on page 134. And that is the monthly finance report. This is a uniform presentation of finance report, provides information as to council's position at this particular time. Any questions that any member may have in respect to the monthly finance report?
Move the recommendation, your worship.
Moved councillor De Vries, seconded councillor Angus. Either one wish to speak to? Put the motion, all those in favour? Carried. We'll now move to 7.2.2, which is on page 137. This is to do with the Anguston Show application for approval for potential high impact activities in regard to the Anguston Show. Any questions that anyone has in regard to this report? Councillor Louise Smith, question?
Yeah, just a question to the CEO, and he knows where I'm going with this one. I'm just wondering why this report's coming to council, given we adopted an events policy in 2019 that, to my understanding and my reading, I've read it several times and can't find anything in it that talks about us needing to revise the policy for new assets or services.
Through you, Mr.
CEO,
Mayor.
yep.
And understand that, Councillor Lee Smith. I read the policy very differently. The policy clearly articulates that the exemption for a high potential risk is for the existing use. Currently, what is being asked for is not an existing use. Secondly, even if a delegation is provided to me, I don't have to exercise it. And I need some council guidance on exactly what they want to do with these second ovals so I can update the policy to actually make it truly reflect where we want to go. So then I can approve it next year.
Just a further question. So we provided an exemption to our agricultural shows when we adopted that policy in 2019. And it talked about, ensuring that existing events or existing activities could still continue. So there's no new activities proposed, but we have taken away a significant area of those grounds, those multi-use grounds. So yeah, again, we can agree to disagree on that one, but I'm still struggling to understand where in the policy it states that we need to look at this each time we have a new service, and if that's the case, do we now need to do this when the second Tanunda Oval is completed, when, say, the Culture Hub is completed, those sorts of things? Do we need to come back to the policy each time?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, no, what you'll give me is some form of direction about where you want to go with these in the future. And it clearly does articulate thus permitting the continuation of existing horse in action events. Horse in action events did not take place in that area.
Could you please say it again?
Thank you.
I'm not gonna.
Councillor Johnston, you have a question?
Yes, a question for Mrs. Thomas. How much money have we spent on this oval?
Ms Thomas, what was the construction costs associated with the second oval at Angaston?
Oh, through you, Mr Mayor, I haven't got the exact figure with me, I wasn't prepared, but it's around about $900,000 for the oval.
Thank you.
There's obviously other civil works that were associated with that, tree removal, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, there was other drainage and things like that, yep.
And I've looked at the photos. Looks to me like there's little trailers and things parked all over the place. And I'm assuming there's courses that will be pegged out for the to guide the horsing events.
So through you, Mr Mayor, no,
Just
any
wondering,
management,
assurance,
no pegging, all of that will be quite well managed.
so no risk to damage to the irrigation system.
Well, I can't say there's never no risk, but
Yeah.
Councillor De Vries and then Councillor Boothby.
I'm happy to move the recommendation once.
Okay, if we've got questions, I'll deal with questions first. Any further questions? Councillor Hayvick?
Not so much a question, but I'm very disappointed that this is back before council again. 2019, we had, it was before council in relation to horses in action.
Look, you can bring that up in debate, councillor, if it isn't, I'm taking questions at the moment.
Okay, well, as far as I'm concerned, I'd like to be satisfied more than what the CEO has said in relation to what's in the policy that precludes the new oval. There's nothing.
Look,
I can clarify that. Nothing. But I don't need to exercise the delegation. The policy, if I am wrong in terms of how the powers are set up in the policy sets up the powers that either I can approve it or council. There's nothing that says I have to approve it. So, like I do on many occasions, I will bring something to council to get direction. Even though I might have the delegation.
Well, going on from there, back in 2019, why didn't we consider the new ovals at that time? If that's what you're saying to us now, to the chamber, why didn't we consider that policy to include the second oval?
why didn't we? That's a question for the rest of this chamber.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, so.
Good question.
This will clarify that, councillor, because I've always seen that if there's a grey area, you best bring it back to the chamber. Because there was a lot of debate at the time about this high impact activity. So, questions, and then we can get into the debate at the appropriate time. Question, Councillor Lee Smith.
Yeah, I do just have a question regarding the recommendation that's in front of us here. My understanding is that under the lease terms that we have with the various show societies, what's proposed in items 1 and 2 here would be covered anyway. So I'm just wondering why we need to have that included in the recommendation.
Through you, Mr Mayor, that's not completely correct with the policy either, because it exempts them from paying certain things.
But we do have an understanding with them for any damage.
When we go through the approval processes for the application, yes.
Yeah, so that's already covered. When we go through that.
No, it's because it would be done through the application. But the application hasn't got to that point because I need some direction.
And just around part 3 of the recommendation, the way I read that, we're talking about potentially allowing this to occur in 2023, but not providing any certainty beyond that the show can use that oval.
The intent there is to learn how we can do things better if there is a problem.
Okay, so we're not providing that certainty for 2024.
What I will do out of this, as I've said, is I'll bring back a revised policy that makes it clear and the intent that we don't need to bring these things back to council.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know that that answers
Councillor
that.
Boothby.
Yes, I have a question in relation to the information that's currently available about the potential impact of this activity on the second oval, given how recently it has been developed. And part of that reason for that question is to ensure that the show society is sufficiently informed to take on the associated risk with the recommendations around potential damage, because we don't know what that quantum might be, and that could be outside the reach, and that may be unreasonable expectation of the show society. So do we have any capacity to predict what that impact may be? So, and should there be a period of time to allow the oval to be bedded down and be in place before those activities occur? And that's a question for us as the asset managers.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, and the Show Society, we've worked all this through together, so they comfortable where we're at. We can't necessarily answer that, and unfortunately our turf consultants somewhere overseas that hasn't been able to give us all that level of detail. The bedding down question was asked, but that again it's an undetermined outcome. Yes, it is. The oval is constructed differently than the main oval. Yes, what the society is proposing is pretty well controlled and hopefully well managed, but I can't answer the ultimate outcome.
Thank you. Further question, councillor Wee-Smith?
Yeah, just in, sorry, in regards to the construction of the oval, I'm just wondering why it's been constructed that way. So we know there's that 250mm layer of sand and that's what the uncertainty is around. So can we get an explanation on that?
Ms Thomas?
That one I can't answer.
So through you, Mayor, the construction is based on best practice in terms of current oval design. We have a grant that we got for that facility from SACA and SANFL, Cricket Australia, AFL, through the Office of Rec and Sport. We have to comply with their best practice guidelines in order to deliver that grant and acquit it, and that's the specification. So the turf consultant, Daryl Seller, is one of their preferred experts, and basically they've designed the oval and we've delivered it to that specification. So that requires that, and the level of sand underneath the turf, that can be more, it can be slightly less, but that was the recommendation for the current circumstances of that particular oval and location, and the drainage and irrigation and all those different elements.
Yeah. Can I ask another one?
Yes.
So just further to that, given that that's following, guidelines that I imagine have been implemented across the state, do we know if there's any other examples of facilities like this that have been installed that also do have other events similar to shows on them? Because obviously in a lot of regional communities, the main town's oval is where the show is hosted, so.
There are actually many new ovals being built.
Adelaide Oval was reasonably new.
And they can hold concerts on that one, so.
So my answer to that question is no, I don't know the answer. But one of the challenges we've had with these new ovals is that there's been very little to peer review against. Often what the turf consultant did say was that often they will provide the best practice design advice, and then gradually as costs become an issue, that gets scaled back and it doesn't actually deliver the level of service that is its primary intent, which is sport. And we did our best not to compromise that in terms of the funding that we'd received for that facility. And it will be the same at Tanunga.
Thank you. Councillor Barrett?
Question in relation to the maintenance of the oval. A couple of weeks ago I saw the Mount Pleasant Oval being mowed, and there would be the method of mowing was by the utilisation of a tractor over the oval. What is used to mow that particular oval? Is it a light vehicle? What type of vehicle is used to mow the oval?
Might defer to.
That's usually a front deck or a real mower, depending on the surfacing. I guess our category 2 ovals get the broad acre tractor type style, but our sports ovals get a much smaller, lightweight mower that doesn't damage the turf as it's used.
So is that like a zero turn, something like that?
Yeah, zero turn or equivalent.
Yeah, right.
Councillor Havey, question?
One further question, why is it tonight we're referring to high impact damage to the oval, where the application from the Angaston show talks about light impact and the small horses, the little carts to go on the new oval? I would say that those, I'd probably weigh more than the horses. That means I can't walk on it. And here we are debating, it's only low impact and that's what they've applied for.
So
The CEO to answer your question about the two categories.
are we in debate, Your Worship?
So through you, Mr. Mayor,
Question.
That's a question.
the policy that's adopted by council is potential high impact, and it does have a potential high impact.
No.
Look, I think
I
we're
think-
starting to enter into debate now. I think it's best that we, I think we're going around the circles with the same questions a bit, so councillor De Vries,
Move the recommendation.
you've moved it, seconded councillor Angus, councillor De Vries, you wish to speak to the recommendation?
I have a suspicion I probably should. This council and the Angaston community have gone to a great deal of trouble to create this oval. It's enriched the facility overall, and I think it's going to be a great asset, which will also enrich the Angaston show, which given that we've had a couple of years of COVID, I'd like to see it sort of come up to its former glory. Yes, there is a potential risk, but we'll never know until we give it a try, and I believe that I'm satisfied that the risk is minimal and that everybody involved is going to be trying their best to minimise that. There is also mitigation activities that we have asked for, and also this is to some extent a bit of a suck it and see exercise, so I think that we should see what happens. So I hope everybody supports it.
Thank you. Councillor Angus.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I think with a, let's say, $900,000 investment, I don't blame the CEO for bringing this back to the chamber. It's a big investment, and we don't know the full impact of the risks. It's a value judgment, and I think it is safe. This motion is much safer than the policy. Everyone knows where they stand. Everyone knows their responsibilities, and as the councillor Bree says, let's get on with it. Support the motion.
Okay. Councillor Johnston.
I think it'd be prudent to support the motion, but everyone present should be aware that this is a case of animals with a small hoof and a reasonable weight per hoof, unlike a tractor. And like Ernest Hemingway wrote, how did you go bankrupt? Gradually, and then all of a sudden. We may never know what impact the horses have on this oval, because it could take 15 to 20 years to play out. It'd be prudent not to have the horses there, but I think I'm speaking against public sentiment, so I'll go with the flow. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Boothby.
I'm be supporting this motion, but there is obviously a lot, the paper alludes to the fact there's a lot of information missing. And obviously with people on, we can't access that information at the moment. I'd be keen for us to continue to do that. Just in terms of, and again, that's about protecting the show society a little bit in terms of, setting guiding rules, et cetera. But yeah, I think there's some core information missing that would have been great to have tonight. But if that can be followed up, that would be good.
Thank you. Nothing further. We have a motion. Councillor Wee-Smith.
Sorry, I'm losing my voice. I will be supporting the motion because of course I want to see the show go ahead, and I want to see council providing every support that we possibly can to ensure that. I don't think anyone in this chamber and the community wants to see any damage done to any of these new ovals. I think everybody has the right intent coming into this. But I did have some concerns that this recommendation appears to be quite heavy-handed. I don't feel that we necessarily need to go this far. I think, in the past we've had good working relationships with our agricultural shows, and sometimes you just have to work in good faith with people. You don't need to put more red tape in front of them. What else was I going to say? I wanted to mention we consistently hear about these potential risks to the ovals, and we had this debate back in 2019 when we worked through the event management policy. But there's no basis to those claims, as we discovered 3 years ago. So I do find it frustrating that these claims do keep coming to us without any basis. Now, I'm not saying that we're not going to have any damage done to the ovals, but we're consistently hedging our bets here without any history of any issues. I mean, the show societies are aware that if there's any damage done to the ovals, they need to, help to repair them, and they're well aware of the work and the costs that may be involved there. So again, it's frustrating to see this coming back into the chamber. I thought when we adopted the event management policy 3 years ago, we sort of put this issue to rest. What's being proposed for this second oval is not high impact. As Councillor Hayvick said, it's miniature ponies, and there's probably a few people in the room who would be heavier, or at least as heavy as they are, so going on that, none of us should be walking on the ovals. Horses aren't cloven hoofed either, I just wanted to point that one out. So yes, I will be supporting this motion because of course when it comes to agricultural shows, I make no secret of the support that I have for them. They're such an important part of our social fabric, of our past, our present and our future, but it would be good if we could actually come to a resolution so that we're not having these issues come back to the chamber and causing so much angst within our communities.
Councillor Hayvick, and we have a recommendation that we're speaking to now, not another one down the track. We have this recommendation, so.
Well, Mayor, I'll be supporting the application because the old saying is the show must go on. And I believe that all I'm saying is I think we've gone too far with this one. The part 1, 2 and 3 of the recommendation, there's no need to have it there because that's all covered by what goes on between the council and the show committee. So I believe that it should just cut off in the first paragraph.
Are you suggesting?
I'm just saying what I believe, but I'll be supporting it.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify whether you want to have an amendment to it or not.
Well, in that case, I'll move that there's an amendment to it. And so the first paragraph of the recommendation, put a full stop after event management policy. And that's all we're here. I spoke to the CEO yesterday at length about it. And he said that the only thing we have to decide on is come back to council to approve the second oval in use. I think that covers it.
So you are looking at the first paragraph, so I'm clear?
The first paragraph that finishes with the minimum conditions applied, and I'd just say put a full stop after the word policy, event management policy.
Okay. So what Councillor Hayvick is proposing that council, having accessed the application for the 2023 Angaston Show by the Angaston Show Society, approve the use of the second oval at the Angaston Recreation Park as outlined in the application pursuant to the event management policy. Now, I'm not too certain that we've been clarified what the event policy states.
Well,
we did it about 3 years ago, Mayor.
Yeah, but I'm hearing this, there's some conjecture as to whether that policy actually covers what you're intending to do here.
I think it does. I've read right through it. And always.
All right, well, okay, all right. I'll accept that amendment. I'll just look for a seconder.
Yeah, second.
If you I'll second it if you.
Seconded?
Yes.
Okay.
Put there then arguments.
Okay, Councillor Hayvick, you can speak to it now.
Well, as I've said before, I believe there's too much put in here and in the recommendation as it stands, because the show committee meet with the council before and after the event, and they inspect the oval to make sure if there's any damage. That's been done in the past. I believe the Angaston Show committee do a very good job, and I've been informed that all the years it's been going, they've never had to pay out on damage. Which is a thing to say, well, we're doing a good job. And the other thing is that what about future events? Well, that's the norm anyway, because every year either the Tanunda show or the Angaston show have to apply to council to use the ovals, and so that will come up anyway. So I think it's just superfluous to have it in this recommendation.
Yep. Councillor Hurd?
You know, I think Councillor Habig has said it all. I mean, I'm here for the good of the Show Society. They have been good over the years and never had any complaints previously, and with the debate that we had 3 years ago, here we go again. So I'd just support this amendment.
Your worship, as the mover, am I allowed to speak against this amendment?
I think it is.
No, because you've spoken to the motion.
Well, you've spoken to the motion, so.
Don't I get
You can
to,
close the debate though, I think that.
No, because
I'm pretty sure I'm entitled to respond because
Yeah,
No, you can't.
I think I get to close the amendment debate
No, you
as the mover of the original motion.
Let me double check.
we'll double check.
This just did come up under
I had
mine,
a
yeah.
question.
While we're checking, we'll have a question, yep.
Risk of feeling like we're going around in circles. Question to the CEO. If with the amendment as it's been proposed, you have flagged that the event policy has deficiencies, and that's part of why you brought it to the chamber. So does the amendment now preclude you from getting the direction that you actually need?
The amendment won't do anything different than what we're proposing and negotiated with them already.
Okay, so both motions effectively achieve the same thing.
Yes.
Councillor Johnston?
Just, am I allowed to ask a question?
Yep.
So this is clearly just to spell it out in black and white as to what the Show Society is obliged to do, and it protects both parties by having it stated here, because this will happen anyway.
Can take that after this.
Sorry, I've got a problem, so I can't speak very clearly, I'm sorry.
That's all.
Can you just repeat that? Yeah, I didn't catch that either, Russell,
So
councillor?
there's a need, I'm sort of trying to get to the same point as councillor Boothby. This has been spelt out to reinforce an existing notion of how the policy works. So this is just to make sure it's in black and white for both parties and voted on by the chamber. If we remove 1, 2 and 3, the effective practical outcome is no different. Have I understood that correctly? These things will happen anyway under the existing arrangements.
Yes. Is that a question?
So,
Yep.
I'm asking the question.
That's correct.
Is there any
Yep,
difference?
that's correct.
So there's no difference? Okay, thank you.
Councillor
Question,
Troop?
just a question. If we, in a year or so, as we've just been told, Tanunda Show will have the same question, does that, like it,
Sorry.
no, I think you know
My
what I'm gonna say.
absolute intent here is to support the shows.
Both, so
Just
this will
To
cover
be
all of
really
them.
clear what I can and can't approve.
Yeah, that's right. So it will cover, so we're not actually just doing Angaston, we're actually making a policy clarification for all of the shows, for a second oval or for those new ovals that are built, correct? Is that right?
Yes.
Yep,
Under the
right,
policy, it would be, yeah.
as long as it doesn't come back.
Councillor Wee-Smith?
Given that there does seem to be a bit of confusion around what the event management policy is aiming to achieve, is that coming back to the chamber for us to
I'll
look
have
at
to
again?
bring it back, yeah.
Yeah, and do you have an idea of what the time frame is for that?
I can bring it back next month. It's a fairly simple change.
And we're able to adopt that
Yeah,
if
we
we're in
need to put
caretaker?
it out to consultation. It's only I agree it's a minor adoption, but yeah.
Okay,
The answer is you can speak to it.
he can speak, yes.
Been here a while.
Or you can speak against it.
Can I speak against it now?
Yes, you
Okay.
yeah.
While I understand what councillor Habig's getting at, I actually believe that the CEO has come to this chamber and asked us to give direction. I think the original language did provide direction, and I think by taking it out, we're actually sending a signal to the community that we kind of don't want these things to be in there. Otherwise, why would we amend it? And just so everybody's clear, what we are seeking to take out is that the Angaston Show Society implement all requested mitigation activities of the council officers, turf consultants and the Angaston Recreation Park Committee. I believe that they should do that. I don't know why we would want to remove that. Second, that the Angaston Show Society fund necessary repairs should damage occur to any oval surface and is determined necessary to repair the council's offices by council officers and or turf consultant. Given the amount of money that we've spent on that oval, I think we would kind of be negligent if we didn't require that. It seems kind of crazy that we would allow the horses to go on there, and then if damage was occurred, that we did not ask the people who caused the damage to fund those necessary repairs. And then finally, the other thing that we're seeking to remove is that the Angaston Show Society commit to a review of the impacts after this event and not proceed on the basis that future events will allow horse inaction or other potential high-risk activities until it is shown not to adversely impact the investment of the second oval at Angaston Recreational Park. Again, I think that's very prudent that we should do that. That, you know, having gone through this process, allowed the horses to go on, that if there are in fact impacts that are causing problems, that we should have a review and then take that forward. So I believe that all of these things are useful. I think they are all there to, basically we're mitigating the impact, we're funding asking for any necessary repairs to be reviewed, any necessary repairs to be funded, and also finally to review any impact. I think those are all very sensible clauses that we've added that were in the original motion, and that's why I will be voting to reject the amendment.
Thank you.
Question?
Councillor Louise-Smith?
Just to the CEO, I'd just like to clarify that the amended motion, these activities will still take place in
Off my back,
conversations. Yes, thank you.
And as happened
Any
before.
further comments?
The council direction helps there.
Yes, councillor Barrett.
Yes, I've got some comments. Having sat through these debates several years ago, I find it frustrating on a personal level. And I read the policy and I thought we'd bedded it down and there's some surety. And I was looking for consistency and approach on how we deal with events. And this is where I have difficulty. Further on in this council agenda, we'll read about a rally that's going to be held. You can read it on page 196. And I read the way that was dealt with. And it says the cost of the road closures will be met by the event organisers. And that appears in under the heading of financial resource and risk management, not a recommendation as a motion. And then we go on, inspect the roads involved prior to the event and if required again after the event to ascertain any dilapidation due to the event. So I've got great difficulty with treating one group one way and another group another way. And I would very much like some consistency and approach the way we're dealing with groups when they're holding events. And that's my difficulty with this. And that is why I'm leaning towards the motion of councillor Habig.
You want to close the debate?
I'd like to close the debate, Mayor, and just bring up what councillor De Very said. Perhaps he needs to read through the information that's already on hand in relation to how the shows operate and how they get on with the council every year. The inspections are done prior to and after. They know that if there's any damage caused, they pay for it. And after every 12 months, each situation is addressed on its own merit because the shows have to reapply to use the oval for either high impact or low impact forces. So really those three areas are null and void. They're already covered. So I just think that we need to simplify it and move on.
Thank you. Okay, I'll put the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment? Those against? It's like a tied vote.
Is it, how many we got?
Doesn't have
Toss a
last
coin.
You break the tie.
Yeah, it's on you.
How many have we got?
Casting vote, Mayor?
It's a tied vote. Now I've got to think about it, don't
Mayor, would you
What
like
you're
to,
the chair
would you like
for?
to lay it on the table and
Was it
read the,
5 all?
and read
I?
the,
No, I'm not gonna lay it on the table, councillor, no.
just a suggestion?
Can't lay it on the table.
No.
No.
Gillian.
You want a Scott?
I've made my decision, the amendment is lost. And the reason I have gone that way is I've gone with the CEO's recommendation. And I think that would be prudent for me to do that. I've heard both sides of the comments and can't argue against both of you. So with that, the amendment is lost.
So the original motion,
The original motion, I'll go back to,
Move that we put the motion.
yes, thank you.
Oh, my bad too, I seconded the original motion. So no, we might need another seconder.
I'll second it, be put.
well, you couldn't,
Put the motion, okay, I'll put the motion, all those in favour of the recommendation as it stands,
Russell,
First.
and who seconded this?
I did have my hand up first, but yeah.
Okay. Those against? The original motion is carried, thank you. We'll now break for the special meeting. And the agenda has been forwarded to members, and this is a special meeting. And the debate item is 2.1, which has been provided.
You've got to do an amendment, you've got to do an adjournment.
I do too, okay, sorry
Adjourning
about
the
that.
meeting for the purposes of
Okay.
having a special meeting.
Sorry. Someone moved the adjourning for the special meeting. Thanks, councillor Johnston, and seconded councillor Weiss. All those in favour, we adjourn the meeting? Carried, okay. Report on page 4, which is the main oval service, irrigation and future work. Any questions that members may have with regard to this report? Councillor Schilling.
On page 10, it refers to the cricket nets not being, they excluded. So who is paying for the cricket nets?
Sorry.
I'm on the wrong agenda. I thought it was a Tanunda Park, but not confidential, right?
211.
No, this is
Sorry,
the,
age agenda.
this is the
Oh, yeah, the other
irrigation,
Okay.
the first report on page 4. Councillor De Vries.
move the recommendation, your worship.
Moved councillor De Vries, seconded councillor Haydick. Speak to the motion, councillor.
Yes, thank you. Yes, the oval surface is going to need work. The football and cricket clubs would rather not see the irrigation going in at this stage. Speaking to the officers, the irrigation that's there at the moment is doing the job quite adequately. It's not a high priority. And if we were to spend money now, then that would just add to the cost when we get around to finally fixing up the oval surface. So rather than spending the money twice, it makes sense to put it to one side for the time being, which is what this recommendation is all about. I think this just makes enormous sense.
Councillor Haydick.
I agree with that, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr Thomas.
Through you, Mayor, just to clarify, that we're still trying to understand exactly how much money we've already spent, because we've already ordered all of the irrigation equipment.
Can I go?
Obviously, with the current market such as it is, you know, we were due to start this in a couple of weeks' time. So what we're also trying to do is to see whether we could actually reuse those materials for the Mount Pleasant Caravan Park project instead. And also I need to understand what the contractual implication is for the contractor, because they'll obviously have included margin, et cetera, and things into that package of work. So I just wanted to make people aware that you're not saving the whole packet of money at this moment. We might be able to, as I say, transfer that investment to one of the other projects, but I don't know the answer to that question as yet.
Thank you. Councillor Angus.
Mayor, just a, no, it's a point of order, but first, part one of this recommendation is to endorse the cancellation. Should that be postponement?
Yes, I think that's a
I
good
agree with that.
Good get.
I'm happy to have that amended.
postponement.
Postponed.
The postponement.
Seconder is okay. Councillor Hayward, you're okay with
Yes.
postpone? Thank you.
Just a point of clarification.
Yep.
So, Ms. Thomas, in terms of it being postponed, though, it's understanding that the scope may change. What ability do you have to work out whether or not the money we've already spent can then go into the second project? So rather than necessarily using those materials on another project, could they be held somehow in abeyance until that's ready, or?
Through you, Mayor, yeah, potentially, but if we can, depending on what ends up coming back to council, I'm just trying to make the best use of the money
Yeah, okay,
in the immediate short term, yeah.
okay.
But yeah, absolutely, we could store it
Store it or
somewhere and reuse it, but it could be that rather than ordering a whole lot more material ready for Mount Pleasant,
Sure.
you know, we might just be able to be a bit clever around that.
Councillor Johnston.
Just a comment, the reports behind this recommendation highlight the challenges we face with compaction and the use of poor irrigation water on our ovals, which goes back to the previous item. Thank you.
Any further? We have the recommendation moved and seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
You want someone to move that we go into confidence?
Yeah, the next item is a confidential item.
So
This is
moved.
to do with the Tanunda Recreational Park Club Rooms and Change Rooms, which is a tender document. So with that, Councillor De Vries, you'll move. And seconded Councillor Hearn. All those in favour, we go into confidence. Thank you.
just for our gallery, we are returning back to the normal meeting
We'll
after.
return back to the normal meeting shortly. Yes.
So is the special council meeting done?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
There was a minor addendum report that was a minor amendment. The report was circulated. Have you all been able to? Any questions? Yes.
No question, Mr Mayor, but I need to change the 7,000 to 8,000.
Oh, okay. All right.
We can't get one of the switch boxes or something, I mean, the IT guys tell me what it is. We can get the replacement
Better the higher
in
spec,
time, otherwise we'll be waiting till February, March next year.
so it's a higher spec box.
It's just a different spec, but
Okay, so that clarification, that 7,000 is now 8,000. Councillor De Vries,
Move the recommendation, Your Worship.
moved councillor De Vries and seconded councillor Havey. Either one wish to, any questions?
I feel like I'm Santa Claus.
Okay. Oh,
question.
was it a question, was it?
Question at this stage, but I'm just wondering, what are we gonna get for the 8,000? What's gonna happen?
in here, you are going to get 2 new screens, 3 new cameras, a whole new audio system, queuing, Teams, emergency management functionality, whole new equipment,
Clearer presentations.
digital presentations.
Instead of steak knives.
I'm seconding.
Instead of steak knives.
It's long overdue,
You tell it, Tony.
now that we're going
Okay.
to.
And we won't be having
All the other
all these other,
problems.
and the stuff we had put in is still being used, but it'll be, and fundamentally what will happen is there'll be multiple different modes put together, am I get this right? Cause Janine's been working on this project. And like, we'll be able to go press a button and it'll set it up for council. Press a button and it'll set it up for conference, management meeting, et cetera, so we'll actually be somewhere near the 21st century.
Are we gonna have holograms and?
Well,
That's what it
everything.
sounds like.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
That's the question.
There's a couple of lines in there too.
So that'll mean that when we're having committee meetings and the like, the teams will be
We'll be able to Teams from here
much,
properly,
much better.
rather than a
Yeah.
tiny little box.
Yeah.
The mayor will actually get another screen. Janine's getting, well, not Janine, but this will actually be set up properly, so rather than things everywhere. So he'll actually be able to watch what's up on the screen in front of him, cause you'll be able to see stuff on the screens.
And in a funny kind of way, I hope we're not forced to use it.
Think about it.
I hope we're not forced to use it, pandemic wise.
Okay, we've had a
I've
mover
had
and a,
enough pandemics in my life, yeah.
mover and a second. You wish to speak to it?
Oh, look, it's just, we found through COVID that this is the way of the future. People will be making presentations to the council on these screens. I think we've all been frustrated with the audio quality in this room for some time, so there's so many reasons why this needs to be done. And I think the community expect it now. They expect that, you know, meetings will be filmed properly, recorded. At the moment, all they can see is a tiny little screen. Now they'll have cameras zeroing in on you, so we'll all be very famous very soon.
Infamous.
Councillor Havey?
I just think that technology is the way to go, and when you look around this room, it does need some improvement. And I think for $8,000, it's money well spent.
Put the motion, all those in favour? Carried. Page 157.3.1, which is the media communications.
Well, this is 157.
150.
So this is to seek approval for the update media and communications policy. That council approves the updated media and communications policy as presented in the attachment. Any questions?
Yes.
Councillor Lee-Smith?
Just a couple of questions. I'd just like to seek clarification around the changes to the policy, because they're obviously not highlighted in there. I think it's quite straightforward. I don't necessarily have any issues. I'd just like them clarified. So I imagine it's to 3.1 of the policy that we're talking about. Is there anything else specifically that's been changed? Through you, Mr Mayor.
Yep.
No, specifically it is that clarification and providing some assurance to our staff to understand their roles and responsibilities, and just updating and aligning the activity of the communication and engagement team in provision of support in alignment with our overarching strategy that council has adopted previously. So minor in nature.
I just wanted to check I hadn't overlooked anything.
Any other questions?
Move the recommendation.
Moved councillor Wee-Smith, seconded councillor Johnson. Either one wish to speak? No. All those in favour? Carried. Page 156, which is the Barossa Wellness Wonderland 2022 Festival.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. After conversation with councillor Boothby, we've put in an additional small recommendation, which is fundamentally the intent is to preserve the funding for the following year, which is the intent of the report to make it exclusive, so if we can just pop that up.
Thank you for that clarification.
I can speak to that if you like, Mayor.
Beg pardon?
I can move that and speak to that if that
Okay,
helps.
all right.
Once it's up there.
Any questions?
I'm happy to second.
Okay, all
You
right.
might want to see the.
You might want to see it first.
What she's suggesting, I was actually thinking as well, so.
Okay,
So yes, I guess so the current state of event funding through Events SA is unknown. But in terms of giving best advantage to this festival, which I massively support, there was a really successful Adelaide Hills similar but different festival that was an absolute mozza. That festival had funding through the bushfire grants and had the benefit of that. Long story short, to give them the best chance of actually getting Events SA funding or other funding, actually having council funding locked in will be very, very helpful for that. If they are unable to achieve funding either through Events SA or another funding source, which they'll be trying to source that, I believe, in the next sort of 6 months, then obviously that approval can lapse, but to have to go through the process again in time to actually get an application into a fund would be quite challenging. So this just preserves the that funding, so they've actually got that locked in order to be able to go and pursue the funds they actually need.
thank you. Councillor.
Yeah, I was anticipating something along these lines. If it hadn't come in, I was gonna add it myself, so I'd 100% endorse.
And just to clarify, as I've just been reminded, it's not the third party, so I've taken the three now.
Mm-hmm.
Councillor Johnson.
Just a question through you, the CEO. Is this potentially binding next council or something?
Yep.
Can we do that?
Of course. The big project binds them as
Do it
well.
all the time. You just can't do it during election period. On certain things.
Any further comments? There's the recommendation. It's moved and seconded. All those in favour? Carried.
Through you,
And
Mr.
rescind
Mayor.
it.
It doesn't actually stop the council from changing that, does it?
Excuse me.
Okay,
They could rescind everything.
Correct.
Councillor De Vries, seconded. Okay. On page 171 is the Barossa Australia 2022-2023 funding agreement. Any questions?
Happy to move it.
Second it.
Moved councillor Angus and seconded councillor De Vries. Either one, you wish to speak to it, councillor?
I need to say, well, we've heard from them this evening and I think the work they're doing is good and essential, and it's important that we support them.
Councillor De Vries?
Yeah, I mean, in effect, what we're doing here is continuing to support Tourism Barossa or Barossa Tourism, they go by both names, which has now become Barossa Australia, and allowing CPI to be attached to it. And that's in the spirit of what we've been doing for like forever.
Yeah.
So 100% supported.
Thank you. Any other comments? All those in favour? Carried. We'll now move to Works and Engineering. This is 7.6.1. This is the proposed road closure for the 2022 Mount Pleasant Still, Mount Pleasant Street Parade and Party.
I will declare a conflict of interest. My wife is the secretary of that body that's applied for it, so there's a clear conflict, so I'm out of here.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second it.
I'll move the motion.
No, I question whether you
Yeah.
have a conflict, but
You don't get any actual.
It's no material gain.
Yeah.
be sure to be sure.
Do we
Okay,
vote?
move councillor Haybick and seconded councillor Hearn. Either one wish to speak to it?
No, Father Christmas has to do his thing, so I'll throw it up.
Okay, councillor Boothby.
Just one final comment, Mayor, before I leave this mortal chamber, is for the last 7-8 years, I've been questioning whether these things need to actually come to council. I'll just question it one more time. In the whole 8 years that I've been on council, not once have we ever actually done anything to change a recommendation or anything else. My understanding is that these comes to council because councillors historically have just liked to see them. So in terms of effectiveness and delegation and just getting onto the importance, more the strategic level stuff that we should actually be looking at rather than this sort of stuff, it'd be awesome if in the next council, this stuff didn't come to council anymore.
Thank you.
Only a couple more to come between now.
There you go, Ben.
There you
One report you may have to do with this.
Fine by me.
Moving a member, you change the date.
Okay.
You're right, no, I don't think we've ever stopped a street procession.
So we've had a mover and a seconder, so all those in favour? Carried. Next item is 7.6.2. This is the amendment
I might vote
to
against
a
this
road
one.
closure. Okay.
Actually, there have
so
been some speaking out against the rally.
We've already endorsed the rally. This is just taking one road that's not going to be used, as I understand it.
There's
Mr.
2
Clark?
reports you could have saved.
Yep. Moved and seconded.
Councillor Boothby moved.
No, it was you moving.
I'll move it.
Moved councillor, seconded True.
It's like being at an auction.
We have a division on this one.
I'm assuming neither one of you want to speak to it, so I'll take that liberty. All those in favour? Carried. We'll move to 7.7.1, it's on page 200. This is the Strategic Planning and Development Policy Committee. And Mr. Mavronek, you.
Are you gonna say it?
Yeah, I'm gonna say it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, thank you, through the mayor, we just wanna add a third point to the recommendation being that delegation to the Strategic Planning and Development Policy Committee be revoked, just to tidy up the whole process for delegations.
Delegation to the Strategic Planning and Development Policy Committee be revoked. Any questions?
No, I'm gonna
Really
move.
quick.
Okay. You got a question?
Yes, as the deputy presiding member, am I allowed to move this motion? That's a joke.
Councillor De Vries.
Second, that it be abolished.
Moved, councillor De Vries, seconded councillor
I
Haybick.
thought you was moving it, okay.
I didn't move it.
No, he moved it, I was seconding it.
Oh, when I heard joke at the end, I thought the movement was a joke. Too late, councillor, I took it as a joke.
All right, move it then.
Okay. Don't joke. All those in favour? Carried.
Something very satisfying about abolishing.
Page 207.
Power, Dave, the power.
7.7.2, this is the Dog and Cat Management Plan, 2022 to 2027. We were briefed on this document a little while ago. Any questions? Question?
What if we don't approve it? Just joking.
Where is he?
Seriously.
Further on,
He's making everyone go a bit.
Move councillor DeBreeze,
I reckon Dom's is still.
seconded councillor Angus. Either one wish to speak?
I had a chat to Jamie this afternoon about this. I think it's actually really well done what he's done, so good stuff.
Councillor Angus?
I think dogs and cat management is one of the few mandatory duties of a council that still remains, so no, I would urge you all to support it.
We give you another 30.
I know.
Yeah.
I know Formula Councillor Stewart would have approved of this. So.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favour? Carried.
At the end of the day, the dogs will keep moving.
Members, that's the end of our agenda for the August meeting. We will reconvene again unless otherwise advised at our next meeting on the 20th of September. With that, I formally close the meeting.